Hello, my name is Stonewall, a nickname loads of people use to call me by, and will suffice for the purpose of this video. Uh, so that's who I am. Quick overview of the video and hopefully the resultant series that should follow with it under the name of the Cyber Airman. I'm currently trying to join the Royal Air Force here in the UK at the moment. It's actually my third attempt at trying to join. I have had previous attempts to join in 2008 and 2010, which I'll go into a little bit more detail later on. But one thing I've noticed on YouTube regards to videos produced by people serving in the military. There's a few British Army guys, but the vast majority of YouTubers who do military related, who are serving in the military, are US military. So trying to find anything Air Force related tends to come up with the US Air Force, whereas the Royal Air Force, aside from the official content produced by the RAF itself, there's actually very little on the way, well, very little in the way for it on YouTube. I don't know if it's because no one's tried it or someone has tried it but it hasn't worked out well. I don't know. Figured I'll give it a shot. Basically, the idea of this series, Cyber Airman, as I said, is to go through the experiences I've had trying to join the Royal Air Force and hopefully offer some advice to anyone else who's currently looking to join the Royal Air Force. Hopefully make the process a bit easier to understand and hopefully be a helpful resource for people. So a quick rundown with me. As I said, it's my third attempt. I'm currently trying to join as a cyberspace communications specialist, which is basically, in a nutshell, IT technician, but more stuff like satellites, communications, other stuff. So it's quite a broad trade. Okay, so that's partially where the name Cyber Airman comes from. The other sort of inspiration, the fact we live in a modern digital world, and with the recent defence review in the UK, the RAF will be focusing more on a technological focus going forward, which includes cyberspace. So that's the other part of the inspiration behind the name. I've mentioned previously I've had two previous attempts. One 2008. Initially tried joining as a MT, or a counter transport driver. Pretty much got to the point where I received start date. But since my application had taken so long, I had to retake the medical to make sure it was current. But I had experienced some back pain prior, which I informed the doctor of, which got me medically unfit for 6 months. By the time that cleared up, my application had been closed. Attempt number 2 was in 2010. Decided to go for logistics mover. Again, got most of the way through the application process, which I shall be given an overview of as part of this video. But caught out by the fact I had let my fitness slide a great deal, so end up my application being terminated. Attempt number 3, which I'm currently in the middle of, I have a face-to-face medical next month for the cyberspace communication specialist, or basically IT techie. Going for it because I've used computers from a very early age. For those in the UK of a certain age may remember the old Amstrad computers of the mid-80s. The first computer I ever used was one of those, the old sort of black and green screen, sort of command line interface rather than the graphical user interface or GUI, which we take for granted today. So I've had experience with computers all my life. The reason why I've gone for it now rather than previous applications it's a case of when I left school, my English GCSE grade wasn't that great, and I hadn't realised then, 2008, 2010, I could have gone for the trade. But since then, I've managed to go back to college, retake my GCSE English, and achieve a far better grade than I did achieve quite some years back now. So, yes, hopefully, third time lucky. Fingers crossed and all that. So, yeah, overview of the application process for joining the Royal Air Force. This is going to be a overview of the process. I shall do further videos depending on how well this one does, breaking down each individual stage. So your first sort of stage is sort of registering your interest. 10 years ago, this was popping down your local Armed Forces Careers Office, or AVCO, speaking to a recruiter, registering your interest, then getting like a load of sort of paper application forms to fill out, etc., etc. These days, as I mentioned, we live in a modern digital world. The process actually begins online. You have to do an online application now, which includes filling out declarations like rehabilitation offenders, work experience, qualifications, etc., etc. Obviously, a case of due to the current pandemic and lockdown here in the UK, the process over the past year has been different. So I will run through what is the normal process and then what has changed. So you've registered the interest, you get contacted by your AFCO. You used to be basically get invited along to see a induction, which is a video about the Royal Air Force, and then you take your Airman Selection Test, or AST, which is aptitude tests, and the scores on that determines what trades you can go for. In case of first 2 times I've done it, took place at the AFCO. Third time, September last year. Obviously, because of the lockdown and the pandemic, things were a bit different, and obviously locally the AFCO had actually moved. Previously, it used to be 2 AFCOs here where I am, one for the Army and one for the RAF and Navy. They've now all merged into the Army AFCO, which they aren't exactly flush for space, and I don't know whether or not it's because of lockdown and the pandemic, but the AST actually took place at a local TA or Army Reserve Centre, depending on what you want to call it. But the format of the AST has not changed. It has not changed since time immortal, and that's a quote from speaking to one of the recruiters. And then after that, I was sent a link with the induction video about Royal Air Force to watch. When you initially register your interest, you select a couple of trades you wish to go for. So depending on the results of the AST, you can choose a different trade if you wish, and then you sort of notify your recruiter will be in touch, and you say to them, yes, this is the trade I want to go for, and then you'll be on to the next stage, which will be the selection interview. Again, this is basically like a job interview. So they'll ask you about your work experience, social life experiences and stuff. Like give you examples, like they want you to give you examples of certain situations you've been in, like leadership, etc., etc. Obviously, a case of you're joining the military, so they do ask a couple of questions relating to your views regarding the military, and a case of going off to a war zone and situations that could arise while I was in said war zone. Again, I'll be going into more in depth about the interview. Next stage after that will be getting your medical book, and then there'll be like pre-joining fitness test or PJFT after that. For me this time, I wasn't quite up to snuff for what I'm required to pass for the fitness test. So, in a sense, my application technically got put on hold until I felt I was able to pass the fitness test. Now I've got my application back on track. Had spoke to the recruiter again and just did a very slimmed down, basic answer a couple of questions to interview to get my application back on track, and in the process of having medical will take place next month. And I segue there into the medical. Previous three times I've been for the medical in the past. It took place as a local NHS GP doctor surgery close to the AFCO, and basically went to the AFCO first, picked up paperwork, had the medical done. Doctor there filled out the paperwork. I took it back to the AFCO, and it was done, dusted. Things have changed. It's now a private company, Capita, that handles the sort of admin side of recruitment these days, and they also do the medical. I've heard horror stories, both from some friends, people I know who've gone into the British Army and had the joy of Capita medical and the sort of hassle. So I've been warned they do make you temporarily medically unfit if they aren't quite happy about certain things, and they're not exactly expedient in getting that checked out. So you may face a wait several months until Capita decides to get things done. Hopefully, I won't run afoul of that. Useful little fact is you can request your medical records from your local doctor free of charge. Obviously, the more notice you give them, the better, since obviously they need to go through, check, and remove third-party references. But it's to explain, you're trying to join the military, you want a copy of medical records just to check through and have it on hand for your medical. They're quite happy to oblige, but obviously a case of the more notice you give them, the better. Right, so after medical, it'll be the fitness test. Used to be booked through the AFCO, now apparently the medical team will book this for you. They will be apparently in touch after your medical, presumably you passed it without any issues. Fitness tests take place at a civilian gym. I believe it's now Nuffield Health. When I did it previously, it was Fitness First. Basically involves a mile-and-a-half run on a treadmill and a bunch of sit-ups and push-ups in a minute. I will go again a little bit more detail on this in another video. So this is the first 2 fitness tests you need to pass in order to get into the Royal Air Force. Right, so assume you've passed your medical, passed your pre-joining fitness test, will then be invited to go down to RAF Holton in Buckinghamshire, which is where they do recruit training for enlisted recruits. Officers go to RAF Cranwell in Lincolnshire to do a different assessment entry requirements there instead. Again, I don't know a lot about the officer entry process, but recruiters at the AFCO should be able to fill you on those details. But for enlisted or other ranks, depending on what you want to call it, it'd be the pre-recruit training course at RAF Holton. This is a 2-3 day affair. So we'll go down, you stay in the barrack blocks down at Holton, and there'll be a bunch of lectures saying to you about RAF Holton, what happens at Holton on the recruit training squadron, various topics like welfare, etc., etc. There is also a fitness test that takes place, the multi-stage fitness test, which is a bleep test followed by push-ups and sit-ups. First time round I did this, it wasn't pass or fail. They subsequently decided to up the fitness standards and did made it pass or fail, which was caught me out second time round. Again, it is apparently still pass or fail. After all that, it'd be a case of AFCO should be in touch again for a sort of second interview, but this is more a formality, just finalise paperwork, just a case of are you 100% sure you want to do this, etc., etc. Once they're happy, then the case of then you get issued your start date for recruit training and you go off for recruit training. Now, that was the normal process. Obviously, because of the pandemic and lockdown here, things may be a bit different. Apparently, at one point with the gyms shut, the pre-joining fitness test wasn't taking place. And because of social distancing, the pre-recruit training course also wasn't taking place, meaning you didn't get a fitness test until you arrived day 0 at Holton for recruit training, which is, I think they've been a little bit lenient from what I hear, where it's not quite pass or fail. As long as you put a good effort in, you won't immediately be sent back home. You'll have to retake it a few days later. But don't quote me on that. Obviously, with well, depends. Lockdown is supposed to be eased next month and the gyms reopen. So the pre-joining fitness test may be back on. Pre-recruit training course, I don't know yet. It's my recruiter told me it's all up in the air. So a case of wait and see. But as I said, I have face-to-face medical next month, such as the second half of the medical, because of I think because of COVID lockdown, etc., where I had a telephone medical first, where I got asked a bunch of questions about my health, and then later received an appointment for the actual face-to-face. So hope I'll pass it. and it takes place next month. So I should be able to give you a bit more feedback once that has happened. Pretty sure that's pretty much everything. So I said you register your interest, do the AST, interview, medical, fitness tests, pre-recruit training course, and then you receive your start date for Holton. Yep, so that's the basic overview. I'll be going into a little bit more detail for each stage in another video. Excuse the dog there. And in case of any comments, any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll do my best to respond either on the comments themselves or maybe in another video. Hopefully I'll be able to produce further videos covering recruit training as well, and then phase 2 training, but we shall have to see. Either way, thanks for watching. I hope you found it informative and helpful, and excuse the sort of amateurish quality of this. This is my first attempt at sort of serious video recording and editing, but yeah, thanks for watching. Catch you next time.